So put on your seatbelt, fasten it tight, because it's going to be fully loaded. So let's go to the first topic. So how will AI impact us in Manila? So macroeconomics, impact on the economic outlook, BPO, and so on. I'm sure people have questions about what the future will look like for Manila. So Uni, you're on the spot again, if you don't mind to start.
Sure. So I'll go back to the start that I mentioned earlier, right? Like I think the country is doing extremely well. The economy is doing extremely well. A good percentage of the economy is supported by the digital workforce. I think what will change in the next 5 to 10 years, as I still believe we are in the very early stages of AI, at least in the country. So we, in full disclosure, AWS partnered with the AI Council of the Philippines, which I'm a member of, but then also with IDC, the research firm, to basically do a survey across the country to find out how the AI adoption is today. So based on our survey, what we realized is only 14% of organizations today are actively using AI. A lot of them are evaluating it, but not actively using it. And what is stopping them is exactly what Vikas mentioned earlier, is not having the right level of governance. So they are very scared to use something because they don't want to be caught on the bad side of the press or have a legal liability that impacts them, right? But again, what would this mean from a country's standpoint is primarily going to be a couple of things. Number one is how fast they'll be able to adopt it. So what will stop them from adopting it is going to be the availability of talent and the use cases. What we are starting to see is most of the conglomerates, so many of you, obviously Filipinos here, know that a good part of the country's economy comes from the large conglomerates that we have in the country. And most of those conglomerates are given a board mandate to, most of those conglomerates already have a board mandate to evaluate AI and where does it fit in their business and how does it serve their employees and their business as well. So that is going to be a critical part to it. So I think that is what is going to drive a good amount of change in the ecosystem and the industry in general. The other area that I feel where it's going to go extremely well is the customer experience space. So Philippines has close to 2 million BPO employees that are directly employed by the BPO sector and the IT-enabled sector. And those individuals, I think, are the most scared individuals today because they feel that their jobs will be replaced.
Yeah.
But when you talk to ICAP, which is the Contact Center Association of the Philippines, they project that the industry is going to grow. Right? So I'm sure like Vince comes from that world, so you can talk a bit more about it. But that is going to be a segment that is going to grow.
Actually, I think, Andre, you had something that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I want to touch upon like the BPO points. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, I think there's like 1.9 million people, like 100% specialized, that they are working in the BPO space. And I think everyone here in the room has heard at least once the fact that AI is gonna kill the BPO industry as a whole, which is a massive threat in fairness. Like, however, like at least from my perspective, I mean, we're trying one. Yeah, maybe this is better.
It's working.
Is it? Okay. I've been working like in the last, like, I think 18 months or so with the largest enterprises from a Europe perspective, that maybe from an AI adoption, maybe it's like a few months ahead in terms of like adoption perspective. I think numbers-wise, we're seeing like at least 73% of enterprises having adopted AI in some different areas. And what I'm seeing working with those companies, including ICAP really, is that they are transforming the BPO function. It's really like upgrading. And if you look at the Manila, 1.9 million people work in a space, 40 billion is like the size of the BPO industry. And we're talking about like 80% of the 8% of the GDP. That is not gonna go away. There's no way that's gonna disappear. But essentially, the way that's going to be powered will completely differ. Like, we're going to be talking about not BPO anymore, but like what the organization in Europe are talking about is like APO or CPO, which is essentially either knowledge process optimization or context process optimization, which is the new sort of like way. It's not even anymore like prompt engineering or context engineering, but it's about like from curating, cleaning, and preparing the data sets that train the models, or like train and prepare like any sort of like agentic applications, up to the evaluation part of like any agentic workflow. So not only there will be a person building the agents, and we are talking about the developer works, but we need people that operationalize the agents, that evaluate continuously that like actually sense check, back to your point, when you want the human, where is the expertise of saying like this a good decision was a good call from the agent versus like that was like a bad call and feeding the flywheel. So there is a massive sort of like weight there, and back to your data point in terms of like way more jobs are going to be open, 100%, and that would be definitely very different. And last point though, back to your, you didn't ask me like how I felt about like the vanilla. I think like to be 100% honest, like on the one hand, there is a worry. If you look about the concentration of routine jobs that are currently being processed in this country and the pace at which AI is moving, I'm a bit worried. At the same time though, if we look at like the promise of like this incredible new amount of jobs that are open in the space, including like the potential from ICAP, who's heavily investing in this country, because it's like sort of from an enlightened perspective, is appreciating the opportunity there. I think if Manila and the Philippines appreciate the opportunity and keep on reinventing themselves as you've always been doing, and appreciate the opportunity that these new jobs can give to the market, and upskill in AI and start using sort of like these tools we've been talking about, then you know, sky's your limit really.
Yeah, I love the optimism. Maybe Vince, would you like to follow on? Vince, by the way, Vince Cortez is the head of our ICAP Manila site. New joiner, delighted to have you here.
Thank you, thank you. So just to build on what Uni and Andrea spoke about, specifically about the BPO industry here in the Philippines, and specifically on the contact center, the voice support industry. Yes, there would be certain jobs that may be impacted with the advancement of conversational AI and other forms of AI within the customer experience customer support space. But that is not necessarily a bad thing. Why? Because right now, yes, there's a significant number of professionals who are answering calls. We know that. And the reason for that right now, that number right now, is because that is the demand. That is where people or workers are needed. So what it means is that eventually, when there's less need for that, the demand for talent will shift elsewhere. And the workforce, as we have seen, will adapt to that. The workforce will have to shift as well and gain the skills, because the demand for work is not going to change. It's the kind of work that will change, and definitely that's not going to happen for everybody. For people who are open to retool and gain and develop new skills, then that will just create bigger and greater opportunities, because that means a lot of our countrymen will have opportunity for more interesting and value-adding work.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but we are making a huge bet in Manila. We're growing our operation from 100 to 120 to 450 staff across different functions and in technology.